What's up, bosses? Welcome to About Her Business, the podcast where we leave all the gossip at the door and get straight down to business. I'm your host, Jonte, and today we travel over to the UK to meet the owner of Go Beyond Travel Co., Miss Bridget Gardner. Now, Miss Gardner is what you would call a true champion. She currently runs a travel agency that focuses on making travel more accessible for people with disabilities. And she's here today to help us break the stigmas on what she means business. So, ladies, grab your cups and your notepads and let's get down to it. The meeting is now in session. Welcome, Miss Gardner.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you so much for being here. Are you ready to get into it?
Let's go.
Perfect. So, let's start from the beginning. You went from working as an operating department manager to experience a life altering stroke. Can you walk us through that transition and what that moment demanded of you emotionally and professionally?
Yes, it's one of those things that's really hard to explain unless you've lived something similar because it wasn't a transition, it was a full stop. My life didn't gradually change, it literally split in two. Before, I was in the operating theatres, I was part of surgical teams, fast paced, high pressure, constantly on my feet. I loved it. I had my purpose, my structure, my identity, and then literally overnight, that version of me just wasn't there anymore. A stroke doesn't gently ease you into a new life, it just rewrites everything, whether you're ready or not. So I went from being the one looking after people to needing care myself. And that's a really humbling and really scary place to be. Emotionally, there's grief. And I think that's something people don't talk about enough because you grieve your independence, your routine, and your sense of self worth. And then there's a question that sits with you: who am I now? So professionally, I had to accept I couldn't go back. That's not just a job, that's something you've trained for. You've built your identity around and been super proud of. But here's where it shifted for me. At some point, I realized I had two choices. I could stay in that space of why me, or I could start asking what now. And I'll be honest, it was not a one day decision. It was messy, it was emotional, and it took a lot of time. But that question, what now, is what gave me my direction again. And looking back now, that was the beginning of everything I've built since.
And again, you are a true champion in this game. What was the hardest shift for you during that time?
The hardest part, it wasn't just a career. I think it was a loss of independence. When you're used to being capable and busy, that you're relied on, and then suddenly you have to rely on others, it completely hits you differently. So it's not just the big things, it's the small everyday things that change. And those are the things that are often the hardest. There's a moment where you realize life's not going back to how it was. And honestly, that can either break you or it can rebuild you differently. For me, the biggest shift was understanding that my worth, if you like, wasn't in what I could physically do anymore. Because when that's taken away, you've got to look and find something deeper. But once I understood that, I stopped trying. I stopped trying to go back to who I was and I started building who I am now. And that version of me is obviously more strong, much more aware, much more purposeful. So that's where the entrepreneur really came from.
You hit on a key point. You had to make a decision. You had to decide if you was gonna let that
Mm.
find you or if you was gonna literally pivot, as you said, and turn it into true purpose. So now you currently run a accessible travel agency. What
Yeah.
gaps in the travel industry were you trying to help others see that they're currently overlooking?
Well, honestly, the gap itself was understanding. If you look at that as a whole, accessible travel is often treated in our world like a tick box exercise. So a ramp, tick, lift, tick, wide door, tick, job done. But real life doesn't work like that. You need to ask the questions: can you actually shower independently? Is there a hoist for a pool? Can you move comfortably around the room without constantly asking for help? These are the things that matter. So I saw so many people, including myself, being sold accessible holidays that simply weren't. And that's not just inconvenient, it knocks confidence, it creates anxiety, and it puts people off traveling completely. So I thought this isn't good enough. And I built what I wish had existed for me. So it's just something that goes deeper, asks better questions, and understands real life, not just brochures. We ask the questions that ordinary travel agents don't ask because we need to know those answers and able to help disabled people. Simple as that.
Absolutely. And you identified a great point there, which is a lot of people don't realize that for people with disabilities, there aren't as many resources out there as we think that they are. So
Mhm.
thank you for once again using your own personal lived experience to help others. Now, I want to ask you for our listeners who are listening out there who may not very well be familiar with accessible travel. What are the biggest misconceptions about traveling with a disability?
The biggest misconception I fear is it's too difficult. People assume it's complicated or expensive or it's just not worth the effort. But the reality is it's not the traveler that's the problem. It's the lack of knowledge around them. With the right planning and the right support, travel becomes so much more possible than people realize. I could go on and create all sorts of mayhem about facilities that are not in place that should be in place. And that is lack of education. But that I could go completely off on a tangent for that. We'd be speaking for hours. But I need to say your world doesn't have to get smaller because of a disability. It just needs to be planned differently. And once people experience that, even after bad experiences, once they've actually experienced a good experience, it changes everything. Not just about travel, you see, it's about confidence and independence and feeling like yourself again.
And this is a community that is very near and dear to my heart. If you know my background, you know I advocate fully for this community and for any resources, access for people with disabilities, because you guys do deserve to continue living independently, having your own. It shouldn't take one moment in your life to define the rest of your life. So I love how you put that, Miss Gardner. Now, let's talk about you as the entrepreneur. How do you design travel experiences that are not just about disabilities, but empowering and dignified?
I don't start with the destination, number one. I start with the person. What works for one person won't necessarily work for another, even if they both have the same type of disability, they look the same, they're not the same. Everybody is individual. So I look at everything, how they transfer, what equipment they need, do they need carers, what other support makes them feel comfortable and confident. Compliance really is the absolute minimum. It's dignity that's the goal. When someone arrives somewhere and thinks, I can actually relax here, don't have to fight for everything, that's when you know you've done it right. And that's the difference between just going somewhere and actually enjoying somewhere.
Oh, so it's kinda like an individualized approach that you're taking with
Uh,
I love it. Now, you also mentor people as well. What does that opportunity actually look like in practical terms as far as income, flexibility, and scalability?
okay. Well, this is where people usually tend to lean in a little bit because it's simpler than they expect. People are already booking travel every single day. So they're booking flights, hotels, cruises, experience, theatre tickets. That money is already being spent. What I do is I show people how to earn from it. So whether that's booking your own travel, helping friends and family, or building a business around it, it can actually grow into something really substantial. But the key thing is flexibility. So this particular model is about not fitting around your job or your life, but fitting in pockets of time that you may have when you're not so tired, especially a disabled person. They're tired, they can't do it today. That's okay. Don't do it today. It is about something that fits around your life. For some people, it's just a side income. For others like me, it's become a full time business. But either way, it gives people options, and options options is what changes everything.
Oh, I agree. And again, thank you for even thinking about the mentoring program because a lot of people out here, as you said, are looking for side hustles or just learning to
Mm.
learn new ventures. So travel, you guys, is starting to be one of those popular areas out there. Now, we're going to stick with the travel industry for a second. Why is the travel industry such a powerful entry point, in your opinion, for women, caregivers, and people with disabilities who want location, flexible income?
Because it meets people where they are. You're not asking people to become someone they're not. You're giving them something that fits into their life already. And for women, carers, people with disabilities, just like me, flexibility is not a luxury, it's a necessity. Being able to work from home around appointments, around family, around your own energy. It's powerful. It gives people control again. And when you have control, you have confidence. And from there, everything can grow.
And you hit yeah on those major points, which is why I chose to become an entrepreneur. You feel free, you have more flexibility to be a mother,
Yeah.
your father, to go out and be a caregiver to your loved ones. So I totally agree, Ms. Carton. Now, you are a mom of 5 and a of 15. That is amazing. Congratulations, by the way. How has family shaped your leadership style and your business model?
Massively. I mean, you don't get to this point without learning a few things, specifically patience, resilience, how to think on your feet, excuse the pun. But more than anything, it teaches you people come first. So my business isn't built at the expense of my life, it's built to support it. I lead in a way that reflects that because there's no point in building something successful if you don't have a life to enjoy it. Simple as that. Plus the grandchildren, they like coming on holiday with Nana. So yeah, when they get the opportunity.
And you learn to build patience and you learn to build resilience, especially when dealing with your kids, your grandkids, and just family in general. So I definitely identify with that aspect as a mother. So let's talk about systems and boundaries. What systems or boundaries did you have to build to ensure your business supports your life rather than consumes it?
Honestly, I had to learn the hard way. When you care deeply, it's very easy to give everything, and that leads straight to burnout. Straight to burnout. I've been there. So now I protect my time and energy and my health, more importantly. So I've built systems where I can delegate where I can. I've stopped trying to do everything myself. I now rely on my family around me to help when they offer, which is very nice because becoming a successful business should not exhaust you, it should support you.
And she's absolutely correct. You can care so much about something that it literally burns you out. And that's literally what
Mhm.
a couple of years ago, I cared so much about advocating and changing things for this community. I completely just burnt myself completely out. So you guys listen to Miss Gardner. Give yourself that grace that you need. Now, we just talked about advocacy. Let's talk about it again. Advocacy is clearly woman in your work. How do you balance being a business owner with being a voice for accessibility and inclusion?
Well, for me, they're not separate, they're the same thing. My business is my advocacy. Every single time I help someone travel who thought they couldn't, every time I educate a supplier, which I do quite a lot, I'm afraid to say, and every time I challenge a standard, which again is often, very often indeed, that's impact. Yes, it's a business, but it's also something that genuinely does change people's lives. That's what keeps me passionate about it. And I think sometimes if accessibility and disability doesn't affect a person, then they don't see issues with it. They have to know what they're looking for. Sometimes it just needs to be pointed out to people. You need this, please, to make it accessible. And then I never thought of that. But then why should they? Because they've never needed to before. Nobody's pointed it out. So I think we have to be, as disabled community, we have to be a little more forgiving sometimes to places that haven't been educated on the things that we need because you don't know what you don't know.
And as you said, we're constantly learning every single day,
Mhm.
research, new equipment, new accommodations, and how they affect this community. So it takes a little while to gain that experience. It does take a while to make sure that it will actually help the community before we actually put it out there. So thank you for telling to offer forgiveness to the professionals who are truly out here trying to do the work, you guys.
Mm.
Now, what has been your most defining "I built this" moment since launching your travel agency?
Ooh, this is a hard one. It's always the people, to be fair. When someone comes back and says, I didn't think I could do this, and now I have, that hits you. I had a lady who was a late stage MS lady with progressive MS, and she went to South Africa on a safari alone. And she needed everything from 24-hour care to hoists to you name it. She needed it, bless her. And she had the best time. And she came home, and that was what she said. I never thought I could do this. I've seen things I never thought I could see. And it's going to be, you know, taken with her to her grave, love her. So, yeah, it's not just a holiday. She got a piece of herself back. So, yeah, it's people's independence, their confidence, their joy. In that moment, you actually realize when you hear this, yeah, I built something that actually matters. Mm.
Y'all, I told Miss Gardner this, and I'm gonna tell you guys this. She is truly an inspiration to a current student, and, just seeing her become literally a champion, turning her pain truly into purpose has truly made her inspiration to me, and I hope she becomes one to you all as well. Now, for the women who are listening out there, who feel like maybe their circumstances have disqualified them from anything in life. What would you say directly to this woman right now?
I'd say, who told you that? Simple. Because most of the time it is so not true. It's just something we have picked up along the way. It's been inbred in us. You have got resilience, you've got strength, you've got perspective, things that can't be taught. You do not need to have it all figured out. Nobody has it all figured out. You just need to take that very first step. And honestly, first step's the hardest part. But when you've done it, and you will, it'll be worth it.
That was some of the greatest advice you could possibly give to anybody. So, you guys, Miss Gardner is telling you the truth. Like, don't let anything in life hold you back from accomplishing your dreams. Now, sadly, we have come to the end of today's episode, and we always leave with a legacy. And I give you a minute to think about this. When we think back years from now, how do you want to be remembered?
Hmm. I know I'm going to be remembered in all sorts of ways, especially by my children and grandchildren. But I suppose I would like to be remembered as someone who made life bigger for people, not smaller, someone who did not accept the limitations as the final answer, and someone who showed that even when life changes completely, you can still build something incredible.
And y'all, Miss Gardner is well on her way to bringing that legacy into fruition. Now, sadly, you guys, we have come to the end of today's episode. But before we go, we're definitely going to make sure we get all of Miss Gardner's information. So, Miss Gardner, let us know where we can follow you on socials, how we can sign up for Go Beyond Travel Code. Let us know all the information.
So I have a website, gobeyondtravelco.com. My email is Bridget at gobeyondtravelco.com. And I'm also on Facebook on Go Beyond Travel Co. So, or Go Beyond Travel Co, feel free to reach out. Not necessarily if you just want a holiday, but if you just want to chat about anything disability related, I'm always here for an ear or to offer advice.
Awesome. And you guys, we'll be leaving all that information down in the description box below. Any last words before we adjourn today's meeting, Miss Gardner?
Just remember, ladies, you are powerful human beings, regardless of what physical or mental limitations you feel you have. Okay. You are all unique and you can all do something spectacular. Just take that first step. Believe
Absolutely.
in yourself.
And with that, ladies, today's meeting is now adjourned. Thanks again to the champion herself, Miss Bridget Gardner, and Go Beyond Travel Co. for coming on and offering all her insights. And you be sure to subscribe to About Her Business wherever you receive your podcast so you never miss an upload. Also, leave me some comments down in that comment section on which industry you think I should interview next. Until next time, keep your goals tight, your circle tighter, and that bank account growing.